Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Another evening, another Bruder conversion. I guess I'm on a Bruder streak right now. I kind of like these things. So we got the track type cat skid steer. I've not done one of these yet. I've actually never really even been around them. I've seen one in action a while back. Kind of the goal for this first video will be tearing it down and trying to decide what to do. Normally I like to use continuous rotation servos because, you know, it's your motor, it's your gear reduction, it's your motor controller, all in a nice little package with mounts and a spline shaft. I normally 3D print sprockets that go onto that servo horn and the servo plate so that it's a nice easy mounting, but I might not have enough room in here in this situation. So we'll see. I may use these, I may not. I might have to go to a like one of the small electric motors with the geared reduction on it. I do have some of those here as well if I do need to go that route. But let's start with this teardown. I guess I will be putting a micro server down in here for the bucket tilt. So we'll be trimming up these little fake cylinders to get that clicking out of there so this freely rotates. As well as on the main lifting arms, there's catches here. I think there's 2 catches on there, so we'll have to trim that up to allow this to freely go up and down. And my thought is, again, a regular servo just under this panel here, that where the servo arm is pulling this. I don't know if it will have enough torque on the lower end to initially pick it up. So once I get this torn apart, we'll kind of get a better idea of what it's going to do. But generally speaking, there will be a servo up here somewhere for the arms to go up and down, a micro servo for the bucket, and either 2 drive motors or 2 continuous rotation servos for your traction drive. So we'll start with just stripping this down. So there's a couple little tabs to take the bucket off, which is pretty straightforward. When that comes off, I will need to get a plate for a forklift attachment. And then as we flip it over, you got your typical Bruder tabs. There's 3 on here, so 3 in the front and 4 in the back. So I kind of did a little bit of plan and kind of got those started already. So we'll just use your pick or your flat screwdriver to pop those 3 tabs out. 1, 2, 3, and then we got these 4 down here. So 1, 2, 3, and the last one right back in here. Let's pop that out. And this top will come off. So once you get those 7, this top comes off. I'll set that off to the side right now. And so we can kind of see our base here that we're going to be looking at for driving this thing. So what concerns me a little bit, these tracks are real loose. And I'm hoping that the track doesn't get in the way of this rear. So if I lift this up, you can already see that the rubber's already against that back. So we may have to trim that out to let these tracks freely spin. That is a little concerning. It's kind of surprised me that there's not more clearance than that. Because most of the Bruder toys have been really good. Because like you can't even hardly run this forward and backwards. So we'll take a look at that. So we'll take these tracks off. We'll reuse the front rollers and the bottom rollers. So like I said, those bottom rollers will get reused, the front rollers will get reused, and this the drive axle shaft and these kind of fake sprockets we're going to getting rid of. So the goal is to try to fit 2 continuous rotation servos right here. And it looks like they will width-wise. They will fit. Now whether we have enough room up underneath the housing here to get those fit in there. My initial thought is to cut the hole out. Like cut the square out right here, you know, where that imprint will lay, so that the center of the servo comes right out that hole right here where that axle needs to be. And then probably have to add a couple little spacers on the backside to get it spaced out right, and then just put 4 screws holding that servo here and there. And then when you set it back on, you can put the tracks on. So that's my initial thought. That's kind of my goal. And then obviously putting a micro servo right down in here on this backing plate that we can hook up to tilt this forward and backwards. And then obviously the last one is up in here, somewhere up in here, to raise these arms up and down. It'd be most simple to just move this lever here, but that's actually a lot of torque when you're pushing on the end of this, because that's what that's going to be doing. You have not a whole lot of leverage. We'd have much more leverage pushing up from this bottom side. So we might put one under there doing that as well. So I'm going to tear this apart, break this down just a little more. These tabs I usually trim back a little bit. Actually, this situation you might not. I might be able to lift that up. Most of the time these tabs are easiest just to trim those back a little bit. But oh, drop my pick on the ground. It's getting wedged in there. Okay, I'm trimming them. This will be on and off multiple times. So I'm just going to trim that there. Back a 1/16 of an inch. Back there. And this will be a little bit easier. And get that out. You also have, looks like 6 tabs total on this cab. They really don't want this cab going anywhere, it looks like. So we will be missing a couple clips. So there's 2 yellow tabs up here. I'm guessing that yellow piece is holding it on. So I gotta release these 2 yellow ones as well. Yep, that was it. So this yellow part on the back is clipped in with that. So those are undone. Let's go ahead and pop these black pieces out. Couple clips on the back side to finish releasing the top of this yellow housing. So we'll get those out. And there we go. So that top housing is all kind of clipped together. Oh, yep, there's one more holding this black part to there. That's what I was missing before. So you can see there's a, might be able to see right there. Another clip holding that black one in, holding the cab into that upper engine compartment. All said and done, this one's getting cut off. That's just a booger that doesn't need to be there. Okay. Alright, there's the cab out. And then here is this upper housing. Just to give you guys a sneak peek, I don't know if this will even work or not, but here is the prototype of the drive sprocket. I took a few dimensions before I started and kind of threw something together, so as I'm trying this, it will possibly be close to ready. Let me get the support material out of the middle of it. There we go. So here's the potential drive sprocket. It's made so that the servo horn will, like if I just push that down inside there, and I'll screw that servo horn or that servo plate inside that sprocket, and then I can bolt that on. There's a hole on the front side, so I can put this on my servo, and oh, I got a dimension wrong. I must have pushed and pulled something. I pulled this down too far, so I've got to fix that. Doesn't quite fit in there. The joys of prototyping. Time to reprint. Make an adjustment and reprint. So that's kind of the idea, is having a sprocket that can go on there and just come out and drive the cogs of that. So the sprocket itself fits nice into that. So I'll make an adjustment on that and reprint. But in the meantime, we'll finish this tear down. So we've got this part in here. Let's get this thing out of the way. Let's see, how does this all come apart? Here you can see these little tabs on the cylinder. Those are the catches that catch it at the bottom level and then hold it up at the top level. So we might as well just take our X-Acto knife and just trim that off. I'm going to try the flush butts. See if they do a better job on this side. Yeah, so now we don't have that catch and go all the way to the top. So that'll work. Now what's keeping this in here? Okay. I'll pop these two things off. There and there. Let that come down. Now that pulls out. So like I said, my thought is if I can attach a servo here, just moving those arms, that would be what raises it and lowers it. But I don't think a servo would have enough torque just lifting that up. So I don't think that's going to work. When I first looked at that, that was my initial thought, but I don't think I'm going to have the torque to do it. However, you look at the square here, and boy, that's just like screaming. Put a servo there. So that's about the size. I could mount a servo inside there and take this off. Trim that out a little bit. That's like the exact width of a standard servo. That's just screaming, you know, mount that there and put an arm, a servo horn coming off this to raise this and lower this. So I think that's ultimately what's going to happen. We'll get that servo about right in there, get a servo horn hooked to this, maybe we'll go a rod right up to this point and up and down. That certainly makes the most sense to me. Servo horn coming off here, trim this out to the side so you can get a better view. I'll probably end up trimming this out to the side, horn coming off, and then hooking to this and using that to raise it and lower it. That makes just a little bit more sense. So we'll see. Nothing's decided yet. Let's get this out of the way. And then also, I'm going to pop off these little cylinders here to free this up. Gotta get it down like that before though. There we go. Yeah, so those catches are right in there. So once we take that off, once we get rid of those, there is still a grab. Let's find that grab right there. So that grab right there allows it to kind of lock in place, locking down or locking up. So again, I'm just going to take the flush cuts and trim that there. Trim that there. Now I'll take my X-Acto and clean that up a little bit. There we go. And so that freely moves. The last catch we have is when this is all the way in its back position, there's a grab right here that hooks onto that step. And so that grab is right here and there. So when that comes up, it snaps in. So we got to get rid of that as well. So again, we'll take the flush cuts. And clean those up, and once those are cleaned up, then it doesn't grab and doesn't catch. So the grabs are gone here and the grabs are gone off of here. Now it's time to mount some servos. That will be probably for video number 2, part 2 of this. This first part of the video, we're going to put this to the side and this to the side. We got to make this thing drive first, because if it doesn't drive, there's no point in doing this. So I am going to reprint the sprocket, and then we can see if these drive servos will even be able to fit in here. So let me redesign that, and actually I'll do it on the screen with you if this shows up. So let me grab my micrometer. I thought I had this at 0.3. I must have messed that up. So the inside width of this right there is 0.31. I did have it at 0.3 to give myself a little extra clearance. And I must have messed with this setting at some point in time. So just from this edge right there, I'm going to measure down. Let's go 0.31. Yeah, and that's where that should be. So I'm going to take this and bring it to there. Actually, needs to come right up to this line right there. And then the backstop in this point where the servo needs to be. So let's put one of these back on the servo and measure that. It needs to be at we're going to go say 0.225. So I'm going to bring this to this point, flush it out, and now I'm going to take that back 0.225. There we go. Alright, so let's reprint that. So we'll hit File and Save. Export as an STL file. And I already had this file loaded into Cura. I just need to reload it and reslice it. And it looks like that's going to take 43 minutes. So let me stick a memory card in here. And we'll save it, and now we'll go print it. So we'll check back here in 45 minutes and test and see if this sprocket's going to work. So we'll be back. Alright, so I did a little playing. I got a set of sprockets printed, and I set the offset in here as close to keep this sprocket as close to the servo as possible with the tracks not interfering. Right now the tracks may clip this one top edge just a little bit, but overall I think we're going to have the clearance, and if I have to trim that off or sand it down, I can. So if this is close together, this outside edge of the sprocket, which would fit right inside, right in there, is right at about 3.9 inches, just under that, about 3.8. So when I measure on this Bruder, kind of these are the guides, we're right about 3.8, 3.9 inches. So we're really, really close. And like when you take this front hub, put in there, it's working out to be really close instead of there. So if I can keep these as close together as possible, it should work. And then when I look at the distance from the inside of here to here, if I look on this housing, it's really close. I'm off, I got about a 1/16 gap. So what I'm finding is that the tolerances should be close enough to make this work. So now I just gotta basically mount this servo inside this housing. My printer's not working. If it would, I would have printed out a little chart, and I'll post a PDF of the schematics of a servo. But if you get a different brand servo, your dimensions might be altered a little bit. But this is kind of a template of where I'm gonna cut the plastic out. So these are my 4 holes for where the servo will screw in, and then this paper is already cut to the outside width of the servo, and then these lines here are that side and that side, and I'm going to line this up. I'm going to make this servo cut parallel with this here, because this is kind of the angle that the tracks come down. So I want to keep this servo inside the tracks. So the hole in the middle is lining up with the very top hole of the axle where that was, and so I set that template there and transferred my holes through there, made my marks so I can cut that out. And I already did that to the other side. So transferred those lines, made the holes, cut that out. Had to take a little bit of inside cab out to get the servo in there. And it does not interfere greatly with the cab. I'll have to take these tabs off, these back tabs off, but under the seats is where those servos are going to come in at. So if you see as I push this down in there, the only thing we really have clearance-wise are going to be these tabs. So cut the bottom of the tabs off, no problem. Now I can take one of these servos and set it in here. And I'm going to put 4 screws in. Like I said, I actually will probably just do 3. I'm going to do 2 on this edge, 1 at the bottom here, and I'm guessing I'm going to have to trim off this top ear, because this is where the track's going to come up, and it's going to kind of interfere there. So I'm actually, on the other side, I'm not going to drill that 4th hole. I'm going to cut this off at an angle so that the tracks won't interfere with that. And then my sprocket will sit on there. And when this is all said and done, you know, if I painted this to match the yellow, you won't hardly notice that. On the undercarriage side, I will have to do a little trimming on this. Get this cable inside there and get that set in there. I'm gonna have to trim off. I'm gonna basically cut this down at that same angle to get that to go down, and I might have to trim out a little bit right here where this is gonna go down below that point. So I'm gonna cut kind of this square out and cut that off, and then that will be able to fit down there. And now we've installed 2 continuous rotation drive servos with this 3D printed sprocket fairly easily. So off camera, I'm gonna cut this other side out, get the servos mounted, cut this off, cut that box out, and when we come back, we will hopefully go try this out. Actually, I need that lined up there. So yeah, that's how to line up. So, all right, I'm gonna go off camera and cut that out, and we'll be back. All right, so I got the servos in and mounted. You can see kind of what they look like. It's actually pretty easy to install them. You cut the side out and just bolt them in. The 3D printed sprocket just fit right in, just as I was hoping. You can see I printed these these fins on there to get in line with the cogs. Really happy with the way that turned out. Tracks fit nice and tight. Very happy with overall very happy with the way it fits. Only thing I'm not happy with is the speed. These are the same servos I put in that D5. You might have saw that. And I'm going to swap both these out for more of a high-speed servo. But because of the way we did this, I take the tracks off, take the sprocket out, and I can just unbolt the servo. And actually, I'm going to trim this out a little more so I can do a servo swap without actually separating the 2 halves. So all I have to do is just trim out a little bit more, and I can pull the servos out without having to do that. So let me kind of show you what it looks like. I got a receiver in there and a battery hooked up, and we've got forward, backwards, counter rotate left, counter rotate right. Using the Flysky i6, I'll show you how to do a mix on here. So we'll go to the start menu. Sorry. and go down to setup. Again, my right servo is in number 1. My left servo is in number 2, in channel 2. When you go to reverse, channel 1 and channel 2 are both normal. They're not reversed. And then when we go down to the mix 1 is on, master is 1, slave is 2, positive negative mix are both 100%. And then we go to, actually let me scroll back through to mix number 2. The master is channel 2, slave is channel 1, positive and negative mix are negative 100%. And then long press or cancel to get out of it. And we have our steering control, forward, reverse, counter rotate left, counter rotate right. It actually does a pretty good job of climbing on stuff. The only problem right now, there's a lot of back end weight, so it wants to do a wheelie pretty easily, which is good. So when we get into the putting the loader and bucket on, it still might add a little bit of counterweight to offset the weight of the bucket, the loader, but I actually don't think we'll need to. We're gonna have that big servo in here, and the big servo up there, and then we'll have our battery back here. I'll probably use this battery. It's a 2S 800 milliamp hour. So actually, I kind of like that slot. It's almost like it's made for it. I'm sure I'm going to get the battery and receiver mounted down under there. I didn't mention earlier in the teardown portion, but we will add an LED in each one of those. We'll just add 2 simple white LEDs. This doesn't come with the little amber lens on top. If it did, we'd put the couple blinking LEDs in that. But since that didn't come in there, but actually right now, like if I wanted to put this cab on, all I got to do is trim these tabs off. That's the only thing really in the way of it going in. Well, I do have these screws sticking out, so I'm going to have to trim this back a little bit for the screws, but we'll still have a couple holder clips to hold that in. And actually, I might cut this cavity out and put the battery right underneath there so that you can take the cab off to get to the battery. So haven't quite determined that. In the final wrap-up video, we'll show all that. So I guess that's going to be it for part 1 of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe, you know, I haven't really seen many guys use continuous rotation servos for this. I like the servos. I don't like these servos, they're slow. But generally speaking, I like the continuous rotation servo because it's your motor, it's your gearbox, it's your motor controller, all in one package. And in a situation like this, they bolt right in with our 3D printed Sprocket. It works well. And again, the STL file will be in the description, so you can download this and print this yourself. So on to the next video, on to part 2, where we'll be handling the bucket lift, bucket tilt, put the LEDs in there. I kind of got the bucket started here, so in the next video we'll go over those functions. So you guys have a good day. Thank you.